Alright guys, I'm gonna make a couple videos here about D11 through 14. So if you were in class last week, you won't need to watch this. But if you missed class that day, while Miriam's videos did talk about this, I think it'll be what we actually did on IXL. In this case, if I see a negative in the front, then I know that the absolute value function is going to open down, just like our quadratics open down. There is nothing being added or subtracted, and so I'm going to start right in the center at the origin, and then it's just negative, but there's no number there, so it's just down 1 and over 1. So the number absolute value bar is kind of like the slope. Numbers inside, shift it left and right, and numbers outside, shift it up and down. And that information would be in the notes that you would have taken if you watched the other videos. So this one, it's going to be opening up. It's not shifted left and right. I know that because there's no numbers inside, but there is a 4 outside. So it's going to start here and then up 1 over 1. So the default is up 1 over 1 when there's no number in front of the x. And it's automatically making the other side because these always make a V shape. So this one doesn't have any adding and subtracting, so it's starting at 0 and 0, 0, but it's going to go up 5 over 1. Oh, I didn't click there first. There we go. And a 5 over 1. So the V is going to get skinny. It's going to be stretched when I multiply by something. It's a whole number. What did I do? A 5 over 1. Not real sure. That went up to, oh, I clicked on 6. Aha, okay. Got it. Got to be able to count, folks. So they're going to give me another chance. So here, and then up 4 over 1. Confirm I've got it in the right place. So this one is going to start at -3 on the y. Remember, if it's outside of the absolute value bars, just like when it was outside of the parentheses with quadratics, that moves it up and down. And then up 1 over 1. So that's a multiplication inside. It's still going to make it like the same slope as it would have been if it was outside. So up 2 over 1. It's not shifted left and right. Still starts at 0, 0. I'm going to skip ahead here. So this one has both a horizontal and a vertical shift. So for the inside, when that says -1, that means I'm going to go to the right one. And then the outside number being +1 means I also go up 1. So it's very much like vertex form. And then still up 1 over 1, still a V shape. Okay, so the A number, that would be the number in front of the absolute value bars. There is no number there. So that's why it's up 1 over 1. It's shifted to the right one because of the -1 inside the absolute value bars, and it's shifted up 1 because of the 1 on the outside. So this one is going to be shifted left 1 and down 5. And that's the vertex, and then from there, up 1 and over 1. So this is just 0, 0, up 2 over 1. So this is going to start at -5. Up 1 over 1. So inside is a left and right shift. Outside, when it's addition and subtraction, is an up and down shift. And a number in the front is like the slope. So when that's negative, it opens down. So that's D11. And you're really going to see a lot of the same concept carrying through these 4 lessons. This one is asking about domain and range, right? So the domain is the x's. What numbers can be used for x's? And if you look at that, there are arrows going both directions. So all real numbers are allowed. So if any of these questions, if it asks you for domain, the answer is going to be all real numbers. Don't be tricked by all the other extras. If it's asking you for the range, that has to do with what numbers can be used for y. And so if it's opening up, you want the y to be such that y is greater than or equal to. So it's opening up, so I know it's going to be y is greater than or equal to. And then what's the lowest point that y goes? It's from 0 and up. So greater than, y is such that y is greater than or equal to 0. So anything that would be along the x-axis, if it's not shifted up and down, it's going to be greater than or equal to 0 if it's heading up. Domain is always going to be all real numbers. I don't even really need to look at the picture. The range of this function, it's still, doesn't matter that it's skinny, it's still greater than or equal to 0. So you take, if it's going up, its y is greater than or equal to, and it's always the y of the vertex. Of course, that's going to be all real numbers. Now, when you get to about 47, it looks like, it's going to ask domain and range. So in this case, the domain is, of course, all real numbers. The range, we want to think about the y of the vertex. So the y of the vertex would be 3. So the range is all real, the domain, sorry, is all real numbers, and our range is y is greater than or equal to 3. So this one is shifted, but notice it's not shifted up and down. And so the domain is all real numbers, like always, and the range is just y is greater than or equal to 0, because the y of the vertex is still 0, even though it's been moved to the right. So here we go, got domain and range here. So for the domain, we know all real numbers. For the range, it needs to be greater than or equal to, because it's going up. And then what's the y of the vertex? The y of the vertex is 4. Let's see if I can get it to give me something a little different. This is still pretty much the same. So I'm looking at that vertex. So I want my range to be greater than or equal to -1. Domain still all real numbers. If you get something where it's going down, then you're going to get y is less than or equal to. And I'm not going to get one. So, but if it were opening down, it would be less than or equal to, and it's still the y of the vertex. So that was D12. D13 is now asking you the same questions, but from the equation. The domain is still all real numbers. Every time. The range, think about this, it's going up, and it's not shifted up and down, so it's just going to be 0. It would have to do with the number if there was something out here that said like plus k, plus something out here. So out, it would have, what would change that from 0 would be if it said plus some number to the right of the absolute value bars. Domain, doesn't matter how complicated that gets, it's still all real numbers. the range, that looks like it's going to be different, but there's nothing being added or subtracted on the outside. It is going up, so it's still greater than or equal to 0. So again, greater than or equal to 0. Domain still all real numbers. So the inside adding and subtracting does not affect the range. Only an outside adding and subtracting affects the range. So this one, aha, here we got something different finally. So the domain is still all real numbers. Our range, the y, is going to be less than or equal to, because I see a negative number in the front, which means it's opening down. So it's going to be less than or equal to, and then it's this number out here, the plus 8. It's not because of that 8, it's because of this 8. But this negative is why that's less than or equal to. Domain is still the same. All right, so, and then the last one there is asking us to write equations. And if you have the page in the notes, let's see, this page back a few pages from where we have been, where I just made videos, sorry. Oh, that's the wrong unit, so darn it, hold on, pause. You should have a page that looks like this in your notes. It would have been in the notes that Miss Miriam went over in the videos I posted last week, where there were some examples of what these look like, and then over here, this transformations guide. If you had that filled in, then what I just went over with you, that's where you apply those. All right, so here, if I want this to go up, up is an outside of the bars, so this would be x, and then I would do plus 5 after the absolute value bars, since it's a translation up. If I want left and right, this says 9 right. Left and right is inside, but it's the opposite, so it's going to be minus 9 instead of plus 9. It says it's a reflection. So reflection means it's going to make it open down. So I just want a negative sign in the front, then my bars with the x inside. So it's just flipping that baby over. All right, so this one is 2 right and 2 up. So 2 right, right is positive, but I go opposite for left and right, so that would be minus 2, and it's also shifted up 2. And notice that up 2 is on the outside of the bars. So left and right, that number goes inside, and it's always the opposite sign. That's why the form has a negative with that, because it's always the opposite sign. And then the outside number is your up and down, and it is what it says. So let me, and so now we're looking at it from a graph, and we have to decide what's happened. Oh, it's reflected. So I'm going to give it a negative sign. It's still just going down 1 over 1, so it doesn't need a number, just a negative sign. Then I put my x in the absolute value bars. Ah, this has been shifted down 2. It's still going up 1 over 1. So I use my bars. X inside, down 2 would be on the outside. All right, this one's shifted to the right, 9 spaces. So I use my bars. The 9 would be inside, but it's the opposite, so I would put minus 9. Okay, it's cold out. And this one is shifted up 8. So the x, so plus 8. All right, so I hope that that's helpful if you hadn't already finished that.